And here we are, my man, Lazarus. Not just Lazarus the rapper, but Lazarus the doctor. What's going on, Laz?
What's up, Laz?
What's going on? What's going on, everybody, man? I'm having a blessed day, man. I'm actually very grateful that I have a day off from work today.
Wow, good for you, because you're out there on the front lines.
It's been it's been a crazy time, man, for everyone in the world, man. But my life got hit really hard, man. I just, I'm a physician, so I go to work, I see my patients, I treat them, I come home, I get in the studio, I rap. That's my life. But man, ever since last month, I've been going to work, not knowing what's going to happen, because I'm around patients who have COVID-19 all the time, and I'm just worried for myself, for my family, and, just being around that exposure constantly, because you keep hearing, yo, stay away from it, stay home, and I can't stay home. Right, so it's like, man, it's been a trip for me, bro.
I was talking to another doctor here in Austin that's a friend of mine, and I said, man, you should just like go home. He said, man, I got a constitutional oath that I signed.
Yeah,
absolutely. I can't take off. I can't
do it.
And I was like, dang, like you're just up against the 8 ball. But I feel for all the doctors and nurses and the cleaning staffs, the people that are the brass and the bones of the hospitals.
Absolutely.
Shout out to all of y'all.
Credit. Those people don't get enough credit.
They're not getting enough, and I want to give them that shout out. I'm going to tell everybody briefly how we met. I was on the Rock the Vote MTV crew back in the day, and we were doing the Democratic National Convention.
Just a little flex.
Little flex.
Little flex.
I'm hosting. I'm hosting this event.
Wow.
And, when I come off the stage, I introduce Jill Scott, another flex. And I hit on her, too. And I come off the stage, and this kid in the front row at Kent State is like, yo, I'm the best rapper in the world.
There it is.
Like, put me on stage. And I was like, okay, well, all right, you the best. All right, I'm going to see, Stu. Okay. I'm going to see.
Yeah.
All right. So Jill Scott finishes. I come up on stage, and I say, hey, everybody, this is Kent State, right? And they say, yeah. I said, well, one of Kent State's song, I'm going to pull the best rapper in the world, Lazarus, up on the stage. And he runs up on the stage, and, I mean, this is just, what grade, what classification were you at that time?
That was when I was pre-med. I was a biology major at Wayne State, so that was before
Wayne State.
Wayne State. Okay.
And so now he's on the stage, and I said, hey, man, keep it clean. And I had to walk off.
That gets you right there.
Clean. I said, keep it clean. And he just laces them.
Right.
Laces them. And I'm going, okay. I'm thinking we're going to get some nursery school rhymes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, man, no, we didn't get that. We got Lazarus, and here we are, fast forward to now. Lazarus is a doctor. His dream came true. And Lazarus is also one of the best Detroit rappers since, might I say, Eminem.
Wow.
Okay.
He's carved his path. He's traveling with Wu-Tang. Golly, man, we all, I don't know if everybody saw the Vlad TV deal, but it was very powerful. Tell us some more about that, about, your interaction with me and how you feel about
definitely, man. I always looked up to Mark Henry. I used to watch WWE religiously, first and foremost. I used to watch, when you were Sexual Chocolate, you know what I'm saying, out there, hitting on China and all that stuff. So I was a big fan of your whole thing, man. And I'm being the world's strongest man. I had the utmost respect for you, too, because, there's a lot of people claiming to be strong, the strongest people and stuff, but you actually won that. Like, that competition was yours. You owned it, so that you earned that title. So I always respected you for that, man. And you always had a very humble attitude every time I seen an interview with you or anything like that. Of course, when you were not in the character, when you was trying to beat somebody's ass. But besides that, when I actually had a chance to meet you first time, at that time in my life, basically, I was a very confused kid. I was at Wayne State. I was passionate about being a doctor, but I was also passionate about being a rapper. I used to be battling rappers every chance I got in the ciphers outside of Wayne State. So I would literally walk out of my organic chemistry and my biology class, get the highest grade in the class, but I'd be like, yo, man, now I got the craving to get in a cipher and battle an MC. Like, that's just the person I was. I was an alien. People called me an alien when I was on campus. Yeah. So, you know, anytime an event came, because Wayne State being downtown Detroit, there was always events, like the radio stations will be coming over there. So I'm like, I'm a thirsty young rapper. You know what I'm saying? Every time 95.5 or WJLB came to I'm like, hey, yo, y'all check me out. You know, and I start rapping, freestyling. And that actually led me to do radio battles on 95.5 and things of that nature. But then, like, whenever like a celebrity guest would come to the campus, I was like, yo, this a shot for me to like get some more shine or get more exposure, you know, just reach out and network. So when I seen Mark Henry, I was excited. Me and my best friend at the time, his name is Maximus. He was like, hey, you know, Mark Henry gonna be on campus today. And I was like, oh, hell no. Are you serious? I'm like, yo, I gotta meet this man. So somehow, some way, man, I got a chance to get in front of you. And I was like, you know, that was kind of my pitch. Every time I walked up to people, I'm like, hey, man, you ain't never expect a Pakistani that could rap like this. And I just start busting flow. You know, that was just the energy I had. And I just kind of had like nothing to lose. And when you actually, you know, gave me the feedback and put me on the stage that day, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was a kid in a candy store.
It's funny because...
And then later when you communicated with me, like some time after that, because you had got my mixtape, and then we started communicating. You came to the Discovery Channel, did a documentary about me, so I called you for that. I'm so honored that you actually came down to support me for that event.
I flex big, too.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I showed up in a limo. I pull up, you know.
You showed up in a limo, and we did that whole thing for the Discovery Channel. That was just that was when I was in medical school, so we just kind of moved forward a little bit. So now, and that's another story, too. When I got accepted to medical school, it's like I had to give up the rap side of me because I was literally studying 18 hours a day. I'm not even exaggerating. It was something like 16 or 18 hours a day I had to study. So everybody's like, yo, put the rap to the side. You can't do that. It's not possible.
You made the right choice. Let me tell you.
So how that Discovery Channel thing even happened was that, you know, the guy that was doing it, the New York Times writer that was putting that show together, he went to WJLB asking about rappers from Detroit. And this was around the time of 8 Mile. So they was doing a documentary called The Real 8 Mile. So they wanted to get like rappers from Detroit that had interesting stories. And then when the host of JLB, I think it was Bushman, said that, yo, we got a MC that we're playing on the radio right now. And this dude is actually in medical school right now. So they was like, yo, tell us more about it. They heard the record and they reached out to me when I was there. So that's how that whole thing happened. And that time I was like, yo, I can't even be a rapper. I'm like studying 18 hours a day. What am I supposed to do?
You know, I told you.
But I was like, I ain't turning down Discovery Channel. Let's do it.
No, but I told you that I thought that it was more important for you to focus on being a doctor because you can come back and be a rapper. And, you know, I mean, as a mentor to a lot of young men, I always want to see the longevity success, not just the flash and the sizzle.
And I always thank God for allowing me to become who I am over the course of time and letting it happen on God's time. Because if I had become a rapper, if I got a major record deal at that time, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Possibly.
And the type of impact that I feel my words can have today is a result of all those years that I actually grinded the hip hop along with medicine, got my certificates, got my board certification, became a physician. And now I feel like I hold a certain lane in hip hop that is just my own. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's my own space. It's my own lane for me to do something and contribute to the culture in ways that others might not be able to.
Give us a little insight on what it's looking like in the hospital, where you're working, because, you know, we hear a lot of different things.
And the treatments.
Yeah, definitely. So, man, with the COVID thing is when I first heard about it and it coming in, there was a lot of, doubt as to whether it was as serious as people were making it out to be. You start hearing stories about what's going on in China and Italy. And then, you got conspiracy theorists and they're saying, oh, this is, it's because of the 5G or this isn't real or this, that. But I'm the type of person, man, like, I'll be doubting it myself until I actually see it face to face. So I'm like, let me see what's going on in the hospital. Cause now I got the front seat here. I'm seeing everything that's happening firsthand. So about around March 13th is when we started getting our first COVID-19 rule outs that came into the emergency room.
In Vegas?
And then even at this time, I'm like, okay, man, so what? I catch this thing, you know, it's a flu, you pass it, you're done with it and move on. So what? Big deal. Why are we shutting the world down for this? I felt just like everybody else, man. And then I had patients coming into the floors, and then we're taking all this precaution. They'll make sure we're covering our eyes, nose, mouth. And then I'm realizing, man, like, we're admitting every patient that has a fever or a cough into our isolation rooms. We don't have enough masks. We don't have enough beds. I'm like, man, this is getting kind of crazy. I'm like, yo, we're all going to catch this because we don't have enough protection for ourselves right now. Then I start seeing the patients, and I'm like, I want to see how these patients actually feel in real life, not what I hear on the media, not from the actors and actresses. I want to see for myself from these patients. And then when I saw, like, some of the patients, like I saw this 32-year-old female. She's got no medical history at all. I mean, nothing. She's healthy. She's healthier than I am. And I'm looking at this woman, and the way her shortness of breath, I'm like, do you have a history of asthma? Do you have a history of COPD or any lung conditions compromised? She's like, no, I'm completely healthy. I don't take any medications. My family doesn't have any medical conditions. I'm just healthy. No allergies, nothing. And the way that she looked as if she was a 90-year-old person with COPD. That's how bad her lungs sounded. And I was like, what is going on right now? I'm like, and this is before we even got the positive test result for COVID. She did have COVID-19, right, but she was miserable, brother. I'm like, no. And that's the moment when I realized, no.
So what is the treatment when somebody comes in and they have that?
So at that time, you know, people around the world are trying to find out, you know, how to treat it. You know, China and Japan, they started clinical trials for this antiviral medication called Avigan. Favipiravir, and that had shown that it was decreasing the viral course a little bit, but that's not patented, and you can't. That's not a medication we use out here in the USA. But then there's another medication that was tried. It's a malaria medication, and you guys probably already learned about it. Right. Hydroxychloroquine. It's the name for that is Plaquenil. So that's a medication. So I started talking a lot with the infectious disease specialist in my hospital. And it's not FDA approved to treat for patients with COVID-19. Of course, all these things take so long to actually get official. But in the hospital, we can treat patients with whatever we want. So we're trying patients on Plaquenil and monitoring them. And if you want to fast forward till now, absolutely, we're showing positive results with that medication in the hospital.
Oh,
so
that's great.
Once a patient develops, so just to kind of go back a little bit, what this virus does. The first thing that it does, it gets into your upper respiratory tract, right? So you spread it through these respiratory droplets. And, you know, people say it's stuck in the air. That's not true. The fact of the matter, it's a respiratory droplet. When someone coughs or sneezes, it comes out. And before you know it, it's going to fall to the ground. So you don't have to worry too much about, oh, it's lingering and hovering in the air and stuff. There's a lot of theories about that. But once it gets into your mouth, nose, or throat, the scariest thing for me and for everyone else in the medical staff, and I think most people in the world, is the fact that you could have no symptoms for 5 to 12 days. So unlike the flu, where once you get infected, you start seeing the signs of it like in the next day. In this, you might be without symptoms for 5 to 12 days, and you're spreading it around to everyone else. That's why it's so important for everybody to stay home for that purpose, because you don't know you got it, and you're spreading it to 5, 10 people. You're just making the numbers go up exponentially at that point. So when you got the symptoms, they're in the upper respiratory. So first time you start noticing a cough and a fever. Now, the thing is, the virus will go away. You'll feel like you never even had it. It'll go away for 3-4 days and go into remission. And then it pops up in your lungs, and that's when people get serious. And when it pops up in your lungs, that's when you can't breathe. You start having a shortness of breath. In the hospital, when we get the chest x-ray, it shows pneumonia without a bacterial infection. We call it viral pneumonia. So that is when the situation gets serious with COVID-19. And that's when, if you're an older person, or if you have comorbid conditions, heart disease, COPD, that's when patients have been moved to the intensive care unit because their lung function becomes heavily compromised.
Right.
Now, that medication I was telling you about, that Plaquenil, now, if that medication is started at the start of your respiratory symptoms, once you start having that shortness of breath and you start Plaquenil, the trend we've seen in the hospital is that within 48 to 72 hours, you get better.
Wow. Awesome.
But, you know, I've been consulting with my infectious disease specialist, and he said, but it's very crucial that we start it right away. We start that treatment with the Plaquenil as soon as you start feeling those respiratory symptoms, because what's going to happen, this is the pathology of it. The virus, not only is the virus, damaging the plugging up your lungs, but your own immune system starts acting so crazy, so AWOL, that it's your own immune system that worsens the disease and makes it so that you can't breathe even more.
Right.
So, I mean, it sounds crazy, but that's what's happening. So what Plaquenil, what that medication does, it actually decreases our immune response, which might sound crazy. Like, I want to keep my immune system up. But at that particular stage, we want to calm our immune system down. It's like somebody like punching the walls. You know what I'm saying? When they're not feeling good, it's like you're hurting your hands by doing that. Chill out.
So
you're not punching. It's like you're basically it's counterintuitive.
Right, Laz, are you giving people that treatment before they even test positive? Then, like right when they show symptoms, to try to stay ahead of it.
So this is the biggest issue right now with what's going on. What I see in the hospital is that the test for COVID-19 to this date takes 48 to 72 hours to come back. So, like when you have the flu, they have a rapid flu test. You can tell instantaneously if you have the flu or don't have the flu. Right. But unfortunately, with COVID-19, they do the nasopharyngeal swab, and it's a long process that they have to take it to an external lab. It's a process called PCR where they take the RNA out of the virus and they have to actually test it. It's taken people at times in the beginning, it was taking up to a week. So imagine patients sitting in the hospital a week not knowing if they're positive or negative. I mean,
and we're sitting here right now. It's April 19th, right? For anybody who may watch this later or whatever. So when Laz is saying that, he's saying to this day on April 19th. And has it improved at all, Laz, since, I guess March 19th to now? Talk about the improvement and where we need to be.
Yeah. So we need a test. We need a fast test. Now, if a patient comes in, I have a gauge of whether a patient has COVID-19 or not. Because if I see a patient that's short of breath and they don't have lung conditions or anything like that, and they have a fever, it's almost very specific for COVID-19. You're not going to see a person with the flu come in with difficulty breathing like they just walk 20 flights of stairs. It's just not going to happen. So for me, I've been starting those patients right away on Plaquenil, regardless of the fact if their COVID-19 is positive or negative, because I don't want to delay the treatment.
I have a question, and I raised my hand like I was in. Mr. Robinson, can I ask a question? A lot of talk about the ventilators making it worse. Is that something that's true, or is it?
It's not anything we can prove at this particular time. But Mark, I will tell you, the patients that do get put on a ventilator, they're not getting better fast. And that's an observation I can tell you straight from the hospital, because the patients that get better fast are the ones that we start treatment on right away, and they don't move to the intensive care unit. The patients that have already transitioned to move into the ICU and have a ventilator placed,
it's not good.
To this date, I've only had one patient that's really come out of it. A lot of them are just steady on the ventilator.
Wow.
And I hate this. I don't want to scare people, but a couple of them died in front of me.
Yeah. I mean, imagine.
So there a lot of people that I talk to, just in my personal circle and around, they say this thing, and it kind of caught my attention because it keeps happening. They say, and I've even said it, they say this. They say, I think I've already had it because I was traveling a lot in January, February. I was sick in January, February. Is there any advice, or is there anything that people like that, because I think it's a huge percentage of people who are just like, I assume I already had it and it's already passed. Should they go get tested for like the antibody, or I guess I'll just leave it to you, Laz. What do you say to those folks?
I don't think there's any particular test right now. I think if they check for plasma antibodies to see if you have antibodies to it, I don't know how readily available something like that is right now. But if they were to do the normal nasopharyngeal swab test that everyone's doing, that would come back negative regardless at this point.
Okay.
But the one thing I would again ask the people that had it at that, or felt that they had it at that time, is to kind of ask them what kind of symptoms they had, because there's very specific symptoms that this virus has that the flu doesn't. So if they start telling me, hey, look, I was short of breath with a fever, I couldn't breathe, and I'd be like, no, that don't sound like the flu. That sounds like this. But I mean, I'm not one to say whether it was COVID-19 at that time or not.
Right. Okay.
Well, I mean, as far as the medical questions, I'm done with my medical questions. The question I have now is, rap related.
Oh, here we go.
This
Okay.
is not a
All
this is,
right.
it's not a sports show, and it could be yours, or it could be a rapper that came before you. What is I got the shimmy shim.
Repping.
That shirt is nice, by the way, Mark.
Well, thank you, man.
That is
This-
a gorgeous
That's
shirt.
salmon? Is that
That
brick?
is
This is
beautiful.
salmon. This
That's
is
salmon?
salmon.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you knew this.
A bear with salmon.
Yeah. Okay. So
know what's
anyway, that's it. We go down the rabbit hole, guys. We go off the rabbit hole. Stu, you
Bear
realize-
going down a rabbit hole with salmon. Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes, yeah. So
That's a
my
big damn hole.
favorite all-time rap lyric goes like this.
Ooh.
You take 7 MCs and put them in a line. You add 7 more brothers that think they can rhyme. It'll take 7 more before I go for mine. That's 21 MCs ate up at the same time. And that was Rakim. Who did it for you? And if it's yours, then spit yours.
The rhymes that moved me the most, man, when I heard stuff like too many rhymes, too many songs, weak rhymes is mad long, make them brief, son. Half short and twice strong. From the genius, I heard, I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses. Can't define how be dropping these mockeries, lyrically perform on robbery. And I'm just like, I'm a kid, man.
Yeah.
I'm a kid listening, and I'm listening to these kind of rhymes come out at an age where everybody's making club music, party music, but then this hits the mainstream. And I'm like, what just happened? I'm already inclined biologically, and I'm hearing this come out a hip hop record, and I'm like, what's going on, man?
Oh, I'm from Texas, so mine's a little-
When I heard enter through your right ventricle, clog up your bloodstream, heart terminal, I'm like,
It's
yo,
Central
wait.
Station. Yeah. My line for me that did it for me, that's still kind of just like if I say it, it takes me back to when I was like 11, 12 years old, man. It's Andre 3000, man.
Wow.
Is every nigga with dreads for the cause? Is every nigga with golds for the fall? No. So don't get caught up in appearance. It's Outcast of Quimini, another black experience.
Right.
That
Quimini was
bar
my
changed my
favorite.
whole
That was
perspective on life,
one of my
bro.
favorite albums, man.
Yeah, that bar changed my, because it was like, he's
Andre is one of the more underrated.
Artist storytelling with Slick Rick was just the illest thing in the world, man.
Yeah, Andre is actually one of those top 10, top 15 rappers of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude.
And a lot of people, they don't give him the credit that I feel like he deserves.
Nah, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
It's Nas level wisdom. Like he's not Nas. Like there's only one Nas. There's only one 3 Stacks. But it's like Nas level wisdom and like nuggets where you go back and listen. You're like, no, he's giving you gems, bro. The bars is a given. He's giving you gems on top of the bars. He does the bars getting out of bed in the morning. It's the gems on top of the bars. That's crazy.